Hello, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, but I think I know everybody here, so they know me, but I'm Mark Measures. But like I say, I think everybody knows me that's on here. To keep things moving as smoothly as we can, we do mute everybody, and we will unmute when you're ready to talk. Sam Sherry, who should be in your upper left-hand corner since she's the host. If you're on a computer, you can email her, you can message her directly if you have questions or want to say something anonymously or ask a question anonymously. That doesn't strike me as something this group would want to do, but if they do, they can. Other than that, we can raise our hands to participate. If you have not done this before, if you go to participants and you click on that, it will give you a list of participants. There, you should be able to raise your hand, which we will then be able to see, and our moderator will then be able to call on you, and then Sam will ask you to unmute yourself, as I recall, right, Sam?
Yes.
One needs to unmute themselves, right? So I thank everybody for being here. I think we want to give it another couple minutes as people are still signing on or trying to find the link. I am so glad to see all your faces and know that you are all healthy and well. We miss you very much. Said that to Diane when she came on. I said, "Oh, I get to see you so rarely." I do a couple things that I do want to share. As some of you may know or not know, even though you are hearing from your agents all the time, most of our staff has been furloughed and are not being paid during this time, except from the government, who's paying them unemployment. And I can tell you that they have shown up to every one of these town halls on their own time, because it's important to them to be part of this conversation and to hear from you what's going on out there and what your needs and wants are. These town halls were really set up so that we could hear from our clients of color the way they want to be represented. We are your representatives. We represent you out in the world, and we want to hear from you. We don't want our lessons in racism and bigotry, and that's our job to go out and learn that on our own. But we aren't in the rooms with you, and we sometimes don't know what you're facing on a daily basis, and we want to know those things from you. So this is the third town hall we've had. We had one for the entire client list that was all of our clients, both BIPOC and white. The commercial department here in LA did one as well, again, to their entire client list, about 300. This is the first one we are doing that is exclusively BIPOC. We are curious to hear if the conversation is different without the white clients on the call as well. Though I think it was important and valuable, and the feedback I got was invaluable for them to be able to hear what other people are experiencing, and maybe gave them a little insight into their own white privilege. We also think it's important to provide a forum where everybody can speak as freely as possible. So thank you all for being here. I'm gonna shut up and let you talk to the agents who represent you on a daily basis. And I really thank everybody for your time and carving this time out of the day to help make KMR better. So I will now turn it over to Jed.
Hey guys. This is such a more intimate group than I anticipated, and I'm actually grateful for that because I feel like we'll maybe get to have a real conversation. And first of all, it's just so nice to see your faces, and I know you know, many of you, we've had at least had a chance to connect during all of this, but yeah, I know what a wacky and scary and uncomfortable time it's been for all of us. And I guess I want to at least part one thing, which is something that I feel like we are seeing a little bit of a trend of positivity. We are seeing an uptick in breakdowns. We are we are all breathlessly waiting for many LA television, LA centric television and Canadian productions to start, and should they all start and go smoothly, then we will all literally be back in business. And that is something I know at the end of the day, that's what we all want. And so I'm excited about that, or I'm optimistic, or cautiously optimistic. Obviously, we'll have to wait and see how it rolls out. But again, it is just really nice to be here. I will, at this point, just quickly introduce you to our lovely moderator, Keisha Lewis. Keisha has been a client with KMR since I joined here 6 years ago. We had been together probably for another 6 years, and I know many of you know her well. She is a seasoned professional in all mediums, and someone who I greatly respect, both as a client and as a friend, and someone who I have seeked out to for guidance. And one of the reasons why I thought that she would be a lovely person to help us, carry on this conversation. So let's get started. There have been a lot of topics that have come through the conversation. There are some things that we didn't get a chance to address during the initial larger forum that we kind of want to touch upon today. And Keisha can help us begin with that. Keisha Lewis.
Hey, y'all. How y'all doing? Everybody good? Everybody good in the neighborhood? Good. All right. We're going to get started. I'm real silly and funny, and it's a deep, hard subject, but we want to keep it as light as possible, as lighthearted, to keep the light flowing. But we're real clear that there's shadows that we have to walk through as well. So the first thing, we had a couple of questions that came up from the first town hall that weren't really addressed. So we thought we'd start off with a couple of those, and wanted to get your thoughts, feedback, addendums to it, So the question came in: how do I avoid being dropped by my agent after standing up for myself, right? The primary thing, I don't know how many of you have experienced some of that. I know that I certainly have, and this was not my question, where, you're in a room or in a space where there is just something being said or done that is inexcusable, and you can't just walk away and let it go. So we just wanted to hear, from the agents about that.
It's funny, when I first read that question in an email, for a quick second, it just broke my heart. It broke my heart that was even something that, and I almost had to decide, like, is that a rhetorical question? And then I realized, like, no, I have to take a breath and go, no, this is a genuine question and fear that I'm gathering that people have. And while I want to believe that it's already out there and you already know, but I guess it can't be reiterated enough that, I feel like we are in this new chapter now, and everyone's in it. We're in it, and the casting directors are in it, and the producers are in it, and I think we're all on alert, and we're all just that much, our eyes are that much more wide open. And I know that what I want more than anything is for a client to know that when something arises, if they in the past, for whatever reason, have felt cautious or trepidatious about bringing it up out of fear of retribution of any kind. But let's address the retribution that was asked, which is us. To be 100% clear, that is never, ever going to be a reason that would change or alter a relationship or ever be some reason why a client gets dropped. Like, that is just absolutely not in the world of where we are and what we're thinking. You know, sorry, I will end it there in terms of answering that particular question. Yeah.
Kind of an addendum to that, that I think needs to be addressed is the fear of being sent out less, you know, of being labeled as someone who speaks up for themselves maybe a little too often, guilty as charged. And will you wind up, you know, will y'all be in that office going, oh, Keisha and that particular type of director, or oh, Keisha and that particular type of project, you know, is that going to be an issue? Am I going to be sent out less? Are we going to be sent out less?
I'll jump in. We're going to push and advocate for you on your behalf in every way, shape, and form. I cannot imagine, because you've stood up for yourself, because you have said your piece, because you've had to endure whatever circumstances you've had to endure in the room, that is not going to be and play any kind of part in how I do my job. How it's going to affect me is I'm going to follow your lead, that I'm going to follow what you need. It's always going to get brought to you. You are always going to be on the forefront of conversations, of being pushed, of whatever it is, that the dialogue that needs to happen. But so that would be a retribution on our part to send somebody out less because they stood up for themselves. I find to be very dangerous and would be highly unacceptable and would be morally unethical as an agent, and in what our responsibility is. That is not to say that everything that we bring you doesn't mean that you have to do it. We still want you to be as opinionated as possible. We still want you to be as engaged as possible. I still want to hear about if something challenges you morally, ethically, socially, politically, whatever it might be that you find distressing. I want to have those conversations. But there's not going to be, I'm very comfortable, but I can't imagine a scenario where I wouldn't pick up the phone and push on my client's behalf because they stood up for themselves in another room. I do believe that would be incredibly unethical as an agent.
And adding on to that, I know that we had talked about in a previous discussion that, you know, there is a concern about being labeled difficult. You know, that is something that from day one of learning how to be an agent, I have heard about this story about, you know, number one thing, you make sure, you know, don't get labeled difficult. This has been a conversation that I've had with actors, you know, of all stripes from the beginning. And, but I think during this new chapter, there has to be an awareness that if a client of color is being labeled as difficult, that we have to go, whoa, let's break this down. What exactly are you talking about? What exactly is the issue? And challenge them to get specific and get granular and really talk it out, and not let it be that a casual thing, and not accept the premise that just because they say it's true that it is. And so I think that is something that is slightly new in this chapter, that there can be an extra awareness of looking for those people that want to label someone as difficult, and to make sure we can get in there and sort of nip it in the bud if possible.
I think that also, and Jen, I know your hand was up, so I'm gonna have you jump in a sec. But I think also we need to hear also and have it be addressed. Can we be super specific with you guys? Because I think now we're time out for the niceties. You know, everybody's done with the niceties. So if somebody just goes in on me in a rehearsal, which has happened, you know, and I have to say something, are you guys going to be what's the word, courageous enough to, number one, hear the specifics of the difficulty, and number two, have my back in whatever way that looks like. Because I think each actor is different in what having my back looks like. You know what I mean? For one person, it might be, I need you to call the casting director. For somebody else, it may mean you need to address the director, you know, so.
This is where I'm leaning into this possibility where everyone involved in these scenarios is aware of what's going on. Something that you guys, that not everyone might be aware of, that casting directors right now are having forums like this. You know, the community, not just agents. I mean, I don't even know about other agencies. I don't think many are, but beyond the agents, people we're all in this conversation. So I'm confident that during this new chapter, that if a client said something happened in the room, that I can't speak to how I would have thought or how I would have felt 3 months ago or 6 months ago if it came up. I think it's almost not important, but I know right now during this new chapter that I would feel extra comfortable, extra ready, extra just charged up to whether it's with a general manager, with the person I negotiated the deal with sometimes, whether it's the casting director, whether if you as the client specifically want a conversation to happen between the representative and someone specific on the team, if that can be arranged, then I feel that much less afraid, that much less concerned about the ramifications, because I feel like I think they're going to expect the call. They're going to be ready for the call. And if they're not, we're ready to make the call.
Okay.
Adding on to that, I think we want all the information. We want as much as we can have from you about what's going on. Because if we don't have all of it, we can't help you as much. We can't defend you as well as if we're trying to fill in the gaps, or if we're getting information from the other side that we don't know if it's true or not. It's always the most helpful if we have as much information about what's going on as possible. And we want it. And we want you guys to feel comfortable coming to us.
Yeah,
Anything.
I was going to say, and piggybacking on that our feelings about this and about people coming to you don't matter. So it's like there's worry, I know, that happens between actors and agent of being like, I don't want to upset my agent, or what is my agent going to think? Our feelings don't matter. This is about what's happening to you in real time in the room, and that you have a safe, supportive place that you can communicate that. And like how I feel is not what's at stake at all. And that's not what needs to be prioritized in any way, or yeah.
They're also, just so everybody is aware, because I know that it comes down to dollars and cents. I have made it quite clear to my entire staff that us not working with somebody, us losing a job, us being blackballed by somebody, not going to happen. But that, and not supposed to use blackballed, so I apologize for that. But us being banned from something is not a concern. We're a large enough agency with enough streams of revenue that if tomorrow Telsey's office decided we're never calling KMR again, we would still survive. That is not a scenario that's going to happen. Stop panicking. Stop looking for other agents. I'm just saying that if a producer, if you walk away from a job, our lights stay on. I don't have to have you work to keep the engine going. So it's not a financial issue. And that has come up in these town halls in dealing with the financial, well, it's now, it may be a financial issue for you, and that's why we have to have the conversation. I don't want to lose a job. I don't want to, that we're here to listen to you. As Keisha, I think you said it very well, having your back, sometimes having your back could just be listening and hearing. And I am in the middle of a situation with a client out here that I've negotiated her contract for 4 years, and she got dragged into a situation. She's a Black actress who got dragged into a online post about the behavior during a certain show, and she didn't want to engage. But it's also, for 4 years I've been negotiating this, she hasn't mentioned it to me once. And it's pretty horrendous. So going back to what Ashley said, we need to hear about it. It's okay. It is your right to say, I don't want to do anything, but we need to know.
Right.
We want to be able to protect you when you do want us involved. And if we are just suddenly hear about it, I mean, this is terrible things that are going on in this production. And I didn't hear about it until I read the post. And I've negotiated it 4 times.
Yeah.
We have to
Something
hear.
I think that we brought up in a lot of our meetings when we're meeting new clients is that when you sign with KMR, you know, you're joining a family. We're all in the same boat together, the same ship, trying to go in the same direction and push everyone's careers forward. When we hear these things, like we want to hear when something like this happens, because in a way, like, it's like finding out that your brother got, you know, beat up by the kids, you know, down the street or something. It's a family. It's an affront on us to hear that a casting director treated a KMR client, someone that we know and respect and that we try to be a champion for, was treated poorly. It hurts us as well. And we want to be able to help you in whatever way possible. And as Alex said, as much detail, as much information as can be provided is just more ammunition that we can use to help in whatever way we can, and to talk to the appropriate people to try to right those wrongs. So I think we all encourage all info.
I would like Jen and then Taria wanted to have a word, and then I have something at the end of that, and then we'll move on to the next question.
Hi, I'm Jen. Thank you guys for having this. It's so nice to see everybody.
Hey, Jen, your sound is really wonky.
Oh, is that better? Can you hear me better?
No.
Sometimes take out the headphones works, yeah.
How about now?
Perfect.
Perfect.
Okay, sorry. You'd think that at this point I'd not be so technologically impaired, but evidently it's still difficult. You know, all of your answers, I think, will actually ultimately answer this question. But you know, one thing I have struggled with, which isn't in the room, but as being mixed race and being someone that was also brought up without a lot of information about my Asian heritage, I struggle sometimes with knowing what I feel appropriate going in for and what feels right to me about how I'm going to represent myself. And I've actually been meaning to bring up this conversation before it has happened, but it hasn't been extremely relevant for many reasons. But you know, it's just something to think about, because I don't want to turn down opportunities with us and like creating work and being seen, and also with casting. So it's just a thought about another way that kind of, I feel I need advocacy for being able to communicate the correct reasons why I might be turning something down or why something doesn't feel appropriate. That has nothing to do with me not wanting to work or thinking I'm, you know, above a project. It's just they don't all feel right, and I'm trying to figure out myself how I feel my race should be a part of who I am and how I present myself on stage.
So Jen, that's going to be addressed. We're going to talk about type and submissions and breakdowns, all of that. We're gonna address that. So we're gonna come to that. So thank you for that. Taria?
Okay. Hi, y'all.
Hey.
Question that I have, which may be answered later in the chat. Also, thank you for doing this. I feel very supported by KMR. I feel very much like you got your finger on the pulse. You don't have all the answers, but you're working towards getting the answers. So my question is in 2 parts. The first part is, I understand that you are doing the work, but ultimately the people who make the decisions that will sort of break down this systemic racism it's not you. It's like producers and people who are creating the content and people who are putting down the breakdowns and making the shows. You know, they're still making, you know, family-centered shows where, you know, there isn't room for a Black person because the family will probably be white, or workplace comedies where there might be, you know, 2 minority people, or whatever the case may be. So the first part of my question is, while you as my agents aren't creating the shows, what will you do to sort of bridge that gap between fewer content and opportunities for us and also getting us in the room? And then the second part of my question is, when we had the last town hall, we spoke and Keisha listed off some books and things to do. I wonder if any of that has happened within the KMR staff. Have you guys sort of had any kind of, I don't want to call it diversity training because that just sounds so weird, but how has that process been going for you guys? Is it still in the works? Is it happening?
All right. I'm going to just take that, guys. One is our current, as some of you may know, we're the only agency in the country with a division for performers with disabilities. So we're going to take the same track that we took there, and that was really a two-pronged attack of advocacy and education. And so we did what we could do to get into the rooms with casting execs, with showrunners, with producers, to show them that they have to change the voices in the room. When you see a character with a disability on TV, usually in a major role, I'm betting 98% of the time there's a direct connection to a showrunner whose sister had Down syndrome or whose brother, you know, and so that's their direct connection to it and why they've written it into their script, as opposed to bringing it to their attention in an ongoing basis. So that's a commitment that KMR is making, and we certainly don't have the same power we have in the disability world because we are the only, and so we are the benchmark for that. But I know that Alicia Ruskin, who's you know, a partner here at the agency and sits on the board of the ATA, is also working with some of those bigger agencies so that we can all kind of do this big education initiative to push into those rooms. And it is certainly the mandate of Amy Lanier, who is our literary agent at the top here at the office, to put BIPOC clients into writing rooms so that those stories can be authentically told. So that's what we're doing from that end. From the diversity training conversation, I think that each of us can probably address what we've done individually in the books that we've picked up and are reading. I have a skeletal staff right now. So to bring in a major training situation at this point doesn't make, is not the best use of time or energy when I want to do it with the whole staff when we're back and running. So we are, again, putting the pieces in place for what that looks like. Whether, and we're forming an interior committee here at the office of agents and personnel of color to help us see it through their eyes. We are talking about an advisory committee of outside, all the things that we can do to bring as much information to the table as possible. So I just thought I would just address that, being the president of the company.
And also, just so you know, Taria, I did receive emails from agents from both the West Coast and the East Coast after that first town hall, asking me again specifically for the names of those books. So, yeah.
And I think that for a lot of that also, there's going to be individual journeys that are happening. And, you know, for myself, I feel like I have been immersed in so many different conversations with clients where I feel like I've absorbed so much in the last 6 weeks. And I'm grateful for each and every, many of you are on this call, but one of you and clients that have taken the time to, you know, to talk things out. And, you know, and again, I don't think we'd have to get into that many specifics, but, you know, I mean, during this same time, I did watch the 13th documentary for the first time and found myself doing research on both Black Wall Street and Tulsa, Oklahoma, and things that I just was not as exposed to previously, and I'm really enjoying, and, you know, just learning and getting to know that stuff better. But I think if there's one takeaway I have from this hate to say this experience, but to say this chapter is that I acknowledge there are so many things I don't know, and I don't even know what I don't know, and I am just sort of surrendering to say, like, okay, no matter how much I think I knew, I'm allowing for so much room for what there is to learn, and I think that's hopefully a decent start. In regard to the first part of the question, let me try to remember what it was. Tria, help me. Something.
How we're going to get into the rooms, but I just asked Sam to unmute Tria.
I think that
I was just saying about, like, you know, you aren't the people that are writing the scripts. You are the people that are submitting us. So I wanted to know what you guys how bridging the gap between what is available for us and what we can go in for. Yeah. And I wanted to say that I didn't mean for that second part of my question to negate any work that anybody was doing individually. It's just that we have brought that up in the town meeting of, like, maybe a suggestion, and I didn't know if that had happened. That's all.
Good. Yeah, I think you illuminated something that has come up, which is that, well, the last thing I want to do is pass the buck or make it like that's not my problem. Yeah, there are some limitations to, you know, we're not producers, and so we're not going to have that direct access to you know, to the creation. But where we're getting into it, you know, I immediately did call casting friends and get into those conversations and be like, so what's new? Not what's new, but like, what's going to be different? What's this going to be like? You know, and I'm hearing, you know, I'm definitely getting the sense that casting is going to go out of their way to do broader searches and to be, you know, getting to know more clients of color. And I said, that's great. Are we going to have a lot of times now where you're going to be sending self-tapes that you're doing it because you want to do the right thing and not because they're really looking? And are we going to be wasting a lot of clients' precious time and resources? And how do we distinguish between the two? And that's,
what did they say?
And honestly, I didn't get a clear answer because I don't think they know. I think that, you know, I got a little bit of was, you know, at the end of the day, there are certainly people that we want to get to know better, and in which case it's not a waste of their time. And that aspect of it, I do agree with. I do think that, but I think that's going to have to be on a case-by-case basis, which is how we agent anyway, to say, hey, here's the situation. Right now, this is more of a general process where they're getting to know people. If you have a lot going on right now and you don't want to put your energy towards that, we support it. If you're like, great, I haven't been in front of them in forever and I want to show them what I'm doing, great as well. But just so you know, we are aware, I'm very protective of the client's time. I think, and I always try to make sure, like, do you really want this tape? Is this really plausible? Because so much goes in, so much work goes into it, especially now during the pandemic when you don't have a reader. I mean, it's just so, I know that there are going to be a lot of efforts made, and I think we all have to work together to figure out, what is going to be fruitful. So yeah, I think that is the beginning. The other thing, one of the things that we're just talking about, and we're doing a lot of talking, is, we're discussing the possibility of finding a showrunner that we could have and bring onto a forum to start asking more direct questions about content and their perspective and the process and the role that they play in it. And so I think that was something that I know, Melanie, you had mentioned in email. So that is something absolutely that we are looking to do.
We are definitely arranging these kind of roundtables with casting, producers, ad agency people, writers, showrunners. We are going to keep this conversation going. We can town hall and town hall and town hall and town hall, and we can mark our progress as we do it. But we also want to make sure that your voices are heard outside of 110 West 40th and 5200 Lancashire. We want to make sure that the producers, the casting people, the showrunners are hearing you as well.
Which I think is a good, Keisha, tell me if I'm wrong, but is this a good transition into some of the stuff that is so very much in our lane? and the more specific stuff about type and whatnot?
Yes, yes. And sorry, my four-legged daughter wants to join.
Nice.
So I just, before we go there, yes, that is a segue, but one of the clients wanted me to express something and say this to the agents, which is, I know that there have been times that you guys have fought for me as a human, and I want you to know how much it means to me. However, I have been personally told by you guys that people think I'm cocky or overconfident in rooms. And I would love to know what your response was. And how do I, as an actor, broker a new relationship between casting and other actors so that they might see me in a new light?
I would say it's hard to answer without knowing who it is, although I think I know who it is. So, hi, Josh. You know, it's funny. I'll be perfectly honest. When that feedback came forward, I wasn't seeing it through the lens or a filter of a racial discussion. Yeah, something that you may not realize. So we're very often hit with these very strange feedback and then trying to figure out the best way to deal with it. I mean, I remember I have a Caucasian client that I can't believe the 30-minute discussion that we had to have about doesn't smile the right way when he comes in the room, that he seems off-putting, but really it's just his process. But then he comes across as someone that people don't really want to be on the lunch break with because he's so like heady and trying to encourage him to smile because it puts people at ease. So I wasn't seeing that through a racial lens either. And that was just a conversation that I had with him about, like, let's figure out how we can win. All right, so it seems like this is what's coming across, and let's figure out the best way to make that better. And I feel like I approached it, or in my head, similarly, like saying, you know what, I know this person, I'm working with, I have never experienced that kind of attitude, or that isn't who this person is. Let me have a conversation and see if he is conscious of it, or what his perspective is, and let's just kind of figure it out, because because this is someone special, and I think that it's being misread, and I feel like that ultimately is how it was addressed, because I didn't at the time see it through a racial lens, and I'll leave it to you to tell me whether you feel I should have, or it should be in the future, or it's case by case.
I think, addressing that a little bit, because I've come across that, and since we're all family, I'm just gonna go there. Very often, as a woman of size and a woman of age and a woman of color, I am seen as a mom, okay? Very often. And I have been in spaces where there is a director who's maybe white, who looks to me as a leader / mom / confidant / whatever is going on in their head. And I have been honestly told, really what they're seeing is mammy, okay? And if I don't respond in a way that, yes, I went there. If I don't respond in a way that is comfortable for that white director, casting person, producer, music supervisor, then I'm labeled as a troublemaker. So, and I just want to do my gig. I'm not trying to go out to have drinks with you. I'm not trying to talk to you about your kids. I don't care. I'm here to do my gig. So I think sometimes, and this is where I think education will come in, recognizing, beginning to be specific as actors, so you guys can understand the microaggressions. That sometimes these roles, these ways of being, I'll use Alan because he's my friend. This big black man walks in the room, ba-boom, there's already a thought process sometimes, and so you guys being sensitive to those microaggressions as we explain them, you know, and recognizing that they are real. They are very real.
I think
Yes.
you're a perfect example, Keisha, because we've had this relationship for so long, and you are absolutely someone that I could say in the past, this has come up, and I previously didn't necessarily feel, I don't know if I was alert the way that I should have been to have received it through this lens. And I feel like this is something that we're going to do together moving forward, where one, I feel like I will just naturally now be more aware of it, and I think I will see it through that lens, and I think we'll take it on a case-by-case basis together and figure out how we want to handle it. But absolutely, I have been guilty in the past of hearing it and not necessarily believing it, but not processing it as something that could be connected to bias or discriminatory and
or stereotypes
or stereotype or whatever, that I don't think I'm not even say I may not. I was not as in touch with that, and I'm grateful to now be in touch with that and look forward. When I say look forward, it's funny. I mean it like I do look forward to having an opportunity where I can defend you. I look forward because I want to do right by you. I want to do right by all of you. I want to protect. I want to advocate. And it breaks my heart to know that maybe something came up in the past and I didn't see it or hear it the right way. So I know I'm committed in the future and moving forward to approaching it and working with you and hopefully getting it right.
Awesome. That's just awesome. All right, well, let's go on to this next little section. Let's see. As we're talking about submissions, I'm just going to kind of throw this out there, and then I guess, Jed, you'll start. Submissions, type. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. The whole conversation about type.
Yep.
Help us, God. Please talk about some of that. Types being lumped into large groups. Because I'm Black, I must be like Wanda Sykes. What in the ham sandwich? Help us, Jesus. So can we talk about that a little bit? This whole submissions thing and how we're seen and what you guys are doing around that.
So this is a multifaceted and multi-layered topic, and I'm going to need all of your help to kind of make sure that we get through it, each part of it, because I want to make sure that we really try to cover it well. So the first part that just comes to mind is language, verbiage, words that are triggering and descriptions. And this is where, breakdowns are sometimes written by casting directors, but usually they're written by casting directors based upon what the director, the showrunner, the writer has said they're looking for. So what I would love to know is, first of all, the first question that I asked a client previously was, should we edit? Should we massage? Should we not expose you to words or language that we have now understood as offensive? And the response of Keisha, who specifically said to me, was, no, I need to know that. I need to know what I'm dealing with when I go in the room, that they wrote this. Helpful, thank you, okay. But we need to know as your team, when something does come across, is it moving forward, is it gonna be helpful for us to say, hey, this is what the breakdown says. How do you feel about that? Like, is this an instance where you would like me to let them know this isn't cool? This is not an okay way to describe a person. And because I'm not afraid to now, because I also know very often it's not Craig Burns that wrote it. It's Joe Mantello that wrote it, and so I can have that conversation with Craig and he can get that message back to Joe. I'm just using them as examples, that we can do that. So that's part one of, and then there are lots of slices of life. And I know while so many clients are not interested in playing stereotypes and not interested in playing roles that are negative and don't, et cetera, et cetera. And I hope everyone has felt that we've been in your corner and supportive of that. But when they come up, and let's say it's something of note, something of value, let's say it's the next, Boys in the Hood or something, I would just love to know the words to use. I would love to know when we're talking about urban, street, gangster, ghetto, thug, all these different words that get tossed around. I would love if people could maybe type into the chat words that they find triggering, words that they find offensive, so we can isolate them and know and for the future and really be able to address them with you with more confidence that we know we're on the same page. So
I think also I want to say around this, Jed, something that you guys need to know, that there are sometimes words that are code words for other things, right? Everybody's shaking their head, right? So depending on the project, I may see the word urban, but what they really mean is ghetto, and they don't want to use the word ghetto, right? And that's an educational process, I think, that needs to happen. There are code words, just like, 45, Make America Great Again. What part of America are you talking about, sir? It's a code, it's a code. So this conversation is an educational thing, I think.
So does anyone want to just jump in to say whether are there any of particular words that are triggering and that you feel like we should be talking out a bit? Would that be productive?
Sorry, I'm looking at my notes. Mandy has her hand raised. Sorry, I didn't see that, Mandy. Is this regarding this, Mandy?
It is. I'm going to speak for myself, but I think I can also speak for people that I've been in conversation with around this. It's not it's really back to Keisha's point. It's not necessarily the words that are triggering. It's actually what they mean by it. There are circumstances and plays and movies where ghetto or urban or ratchet or whatever, it's completely necessary because it describes something that's very specific and to the point. But when people use those words to describe what they assume is Blackness, or we're going to say ratchet because we really want Black people, or we're going to say ghetto because we really want Black people, that's what's triggering. It's not necessarily the word itself, it's when it's being coded to represent that's problematic. Because there are certain circumstances. If there was the next Boys in the Hood, they're going to use words like ghetto and urban, and it makes sense because that's specifically what we're talking about. They're not using it to code something. Does that make sense? They're not using it to code something else. It's just what it is. Right,
so but how can we play? Or maybe not, but just, is there something that comes to mind when I say that?
I mean, I think that's certainly something that should be addressed. I guess it's up to you whether you guys want to have that conversation before you start submitting people or after that process is over. For me, I'll speak for myself. I'm less concerned with you guys addressing that specifically and more concerned with how to open up the gamut of what I'm allowed to go in for. Should obviously be conversations around language, but if I saw a breakdown that was extremely offensive, obviously I think I would tell you guys, but I do understand that. Go ahead, Jen.
Can you expand on what you just said about what you can go in for, what that means?
Sure, that's going to segue us into as part of the conversation. Are we cool with that?
Yes.
Okay, so Black or Asian or Middle Eastern or whatever, those are not types. So the way that breakdowns are set up are inherently extremely racist, actually. So the fact that I only get called in for Black roles is problematic because there are other roles that are not race specific, even though we all know that they're kind of white, they just don't say that they're white, that are my type. I'm quirky. I'm, you know, a certain age. You know, I am warm-hearted. Like those are character descriptions. Like those are types. I'm not going to go out for the same thing that necessarily Issa Rae is going to go out for. Or, and you know, just because I'm black doesn't mean that black is not a monolithic thing. It's not one thing. And we often get called in. I'll go to auditions and see black girls that are completely different types than me. But because we're both black, we're in the same audition. And that's extremely frustrating because I don't get to be seen for the type of actor I am. I get to be seen as a black actress. And that's what's problematic. And so, and this is a conversation I had with Ashley. It's like, it's very frustrating to know that a lot of projects or a lot of casting directors or whoever makes these decisions are not interested in the multifaceted ways that people exist and the multifaceted ways that black people or people of color exist. They're usually interested in blackness as like a trope or over here to be the best friend or over here to do this thing, as opposed to understanding that I can be black and from Wyoming. I can be black and be shy. I can be black as a singer and not belt, right? It's all these like specific things that they kind of group us in for without allowing us to explore the many ways that we are diverse. And not like culturally diverse, but like the ways that we ourselves are diverse and what we bring to the table as people. And it's very disheartening. I have a fairly successful career here, I think, and it's like, if it wasn't for the work of black playwrights, I would never have worked, ever. Like, with the exception of one play in my entire time in New York. Everyone else was a black playwright, because white people don't make space for all the different ways that people of color exist. This goes to, I don't see her name up here. I think her name was Jennifer. Where are you at? Jennifer. Jennifer shouldn't always have to deal with this question of how should she be seen as an Asian actress if she doesn't feel comfortable. She should not only be going in for Asian stuff. Point blank period. That's not the only stuff that she should be seen for. She shouldn't always have to deal with this question. She should also just be allowed to exist. And we're often not given that, to be honest.
And Mandy, I'll say that that's coming into this conversation, which is about casting. We're about to talk about that, so they're gonna address that. It is on the list. I'm sorry, Ashley.
No, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, Francis and Allison B, please unmute and speak up. Francis first. Is he here? Uh-oh.
I don't know where Sam
Oh, there
went.
we go.
Sam's got to ask her to unmute.
There I am. I'm unmuted now. Hi.
Okay, great.
I'm so new to this fantastic group, but I just wanted to underline something that Mandy articulated so well. And
Uh-oh, we've lost you,
see...
Francis.
You want to try taking
go.
out the headphones, Francis, to see if that's better?
Hope this is better.
Yes.
Yep.
Great.
Already better.
I want to underline something that Mandy articulated so well. In so many breakdowns, the default characters, the white characters, are described in really human terms, and then you have characters, and you suddenly use code words that describe context, that describe their age, and oftentimes nothing else about who they are. So, sometimes those descriptors are helpful in terms of no character's life, but they're not actually describing a whole human being. And that's, I think, partly because we live in a culture where who we play are defined solely by our race and often gender as well, and not by who they are as a human being. And if you look back at breakdowns where the roles that are assumed are going to go to white people, I think that you'll see a real difference just in how we're spoken about, because we're not being brought in oftentimes to play a human being. We're brought in to fill a quota, you know, to represent a race, to represent something, as opposed to just being a human being in the show. And I feel a real difference when I'm going in for something that is a person where the story is about an Asian a story, because the breakdowns are completely human and not just, you know, 50s delivery guy. You know, okay, maybe the role isn't that, you know, important, but that doesn't really describe a person, you know. And so if the code words that are being used only signify race, then it doesn't really give you much information going.
Uh-oh. I don't know why we lost Francis. Francis, were you done speaking? Just give me a head nod or a hand, thumbs up or thumbs down, because we're not sure.
Okay, great.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm sorry, Jed, before you speak,
Yep.
Allison and then Eden.
Right, thank you, thank you.
Absolutely.
Oh, I was gonna say, Jed, you can go if you want. Do you want to speak before?
No, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, Mandy, thank you for everything that you said. It kind of harkened back to a situation this past summer where I wanted to be seen for something at Sacramento, Sweeney Todd, which I did with the New York Phil for their season, but instead, when I got the appointment, I only got Color Purple. I don't know if I wasn't even submitted for it. I don't even know. I think I was as that. And I had just finished doing Pretty Woman, an opera, La Traviata. So there's no reason, and my resume shows that I sing everything. So the fact, this is what we're still talking about, that there's still not an open thought and idea that we can sing everything. They see a picture, I still feel, and just see us as just Black, oh, Color Purple, go. And so as you as agents, you've got to push even harder in general, because those stereotypes are still ingrained in many people. They may not realize it, but it's still ingrained in a lot of people. So that's what I would want for you guys to fight even harder. Even if you think people are open and amazing, sometimes people have guards about certain things and have ideas that certain roles should be a certain way. And if our resumes show that we do everything and we have reviews, we have awards, there shouldn't be any reason why I shouldn't get in the room. That's it.
Thank you.
Awesome. Eden?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, everyone. I'm so happy to be here. I'm very new to the KM was signed during the pandemic, so I'm very new, but it makes me happy to see everyone and to be a part of the family. I will just say, as a Latina, that just piggybacking on everything that everyone is saying, Mandy so beautifully said, of just like, we have the rainbow of life just like white people do, and we come in all shades and colors and forms. And so for me, and I recognize that as somebody who passes as white, but I'm no longer claiming that because I'm not white. So even though I have benefited from privilege from that, it is incredibly difficult because of my last name being in the past submitted for things that are only maids or delivery worker or a nanny, and then I get in there and then they're like, you sound a little too educated, can you make it a little more urban, or actually you might be better for the lawyer or the doctor who's Latina but not. And I think it's just like really recognizing that all sorts of people work in all sorts of jobs, all sorts of education backgrounds. Like, just because somebody doesn't speak with an accent doesn't mean they don't have to work hard to support their education, or I don't know, it's just a frustrating thing for somebody who's always not quite ethnic enough or too ethnic, to find the place of that we all belong in all the roles. That's why there's no representation. That's why it's important to have shows that have an Asian in the lead role, to have a Black woman in the lead role. And you're starting to see it more and more. But so I think that, like, as my representatives, I think that it might be just like nice to know that it's not perpetuating the stereotypes that just happen because of our history. That's all I want to say.
Absolutely.
For now.
Thank you. Thank you, Eden. Brian A. also had their hand raised. Can you, there we go. Hey.
Hi. I was fully content to listen today. Hi, for those of you who I don't know, it's nice to see faces I don't know. I'm Brian Abraham. I'm having a lot of identification with everything everybody's saying, and it's deeply affecting me. I didn't even realize, like, how exhausting it is to deal with this, and that we're all, I mean, what Eden just said, you know, being a Latina is exactly my experience being an Arab American actor. And I mean, it's crazy because, like, all of the things I've had in most of my jobs are because of the color of my skin. Even the good job that I'm not able to work today is because the breakdown is looking for a non-white person. And every time I open up an email from an agency, before, I mean, this is like my whole life, so this isn't a you guys thing, this is just what it's been like. I've always dreaded seeing an Arab name, and I would pray to God that it wouldn't say with accent, because I've had to go to, as I do accents, but I've had to learn them because I feel like that's been the only way I've gotten in front of people, is to learn other languages, and to learn to do dialects. When 90% of the time, if it's an Arab cab driver, they're going to cast an Arab cab driver. I mean, it's New York City and Los Angeles. There's frickin' Arab cab drivers to cast. We're not going to cast an actor who can do it. So it's just exhausting. It's just exhausting. And and like everybody else here, I'm an actor. I just want to be a person, you know? And I understand in this business, type is everything. I get it. I know I have a physical type, and I embrace it, and I lean into it. And everything, all the cash and prizes that I have are because of my type, you know? And so it's a great thing. But it just deeply affected me hearing everybody talk in their experiences and going, oh my God, me too, me too, me too. And it broke my heart to hear how some of these roles for Black people are described as ratchet. I think it's horrifying. So I really have no point to this. I needed to express myself because I wasn't expecting to have such a strong emotional reaction. I hope we can continue a dialogue in a more personal setting. And I'm really honored to be included in this meeting with you people, and to be invited to be here. And I look forward to just having a more honest relationship with this business and with you guys, because I just want to be a person. So I love you all. Thanks for letting me talk.
I'm going to jump in here just for a quick second, because what Eden just expressed and what Brian expressed was really illustrated. Brian is new to New York. I mean, he moved there a couple years ago to do a play. And so he was an LA client, and in coming to the way you look or feel, it's sad and hilarious at the same time. Brian has recorded the entire play Disgraced.
That's right.
For the 40 theaters who have called him in to self-tape, and everyone had a different set of sides. I saw Disgraced through Brian's auditions, and not once did he get the job because he didn't fit what they thought that guy in Disgrace was supposed to look like.
Well, the reason is, Mark, it's because, to be honest, they were looking for a brown guy, but I'm not the right type for the character.
That's what I'm saying.
It's a smaller man with a monster on the inside.
Right.
So thus the turn and the surprise. I am a larger man.
Right.
So it doesn't make it as dramatic. I'm sorry, but that's the reason.
Right. But that's the reason in a nutshell, though. So literally the entire play, it got to the point where theaters would call and I would just go and pull the clip that they were looking for that was closest and send it because he had literally recorded the entire play.
Wow.
If
And
you're
it's a great,
tired,
I'm sorry. It's a
Who
great
was that?
opportunity to be able to do so. I mean, I again, you know, I love to be able to do it, but at some point you want to get the job.
That's my point. At some point you want to get it. I'm sorry, you had some other people raising their hands, Keisha. I'm sorry.
Yes, that's okay. Alan is next, and then Sabrina.
Hey there, I'm kind of like Brian. I got to tell you, I'm tired. And I'm tired of these conversations. I really didn't even want to come to this because I'm sick of talking about this stuff. But I am telling you that having this conversation and watching my white agents hear and feel what we've all been going through is very cathartic and very helpful and very encouraging. So I just want to say thank you for this. You know, like Mandy said, white actors, they're never playing white people. They're just playing people. And that's it. We just want to play people. That's it.
Thank you, Alan.
Thanks, Alan. So good.
No.
Sabrina?
There we go. Thank you guys so much for holding this, and I'm grateful to be here. And sorry I missed the last town hall, but spinning off of what everyone has said so eloquently, I guess my question for you guys, because I want to give you guys an opportunity to speak to this, is what specifically have you discussed and already put in place? Because I know I've had this conversation, you know, with you guys years back, for beginning to make yourselves maybe uncomfortable in a place where you are pushing us, submitting us for things that might generally seem out of the realm of what you might usually submit us for. And to you, I mean, I would love to hear just actually what is the process when you get submissions of looking at your entire roster and saying, you know what, you know, if there is, whether it's a description or there's not a description of race in there, to what degree have you in the past, and are you now moving forward going to say all of these people are capable, are able to perform this role, and we are submitting all of them. I would love to hear just kind of the practical action steps of how we go forward in expanding kind of the things that you're submitting us for, so that we are playing the roles of people. Because until you as well as us are saying, let's think bigger, you know, it's going to continue to happen. Hopefully it will be changing on the end of casting, on the end of, you know, showrunners and producers. But even if it is not something we ultimately get a role for, if we go in and are seen and they go, well, damn, I didn't think of it that way before. That's a benefit to us in itself, being seen for something that maybe in the future, you know, might pay off.
Thank you for that. That moves right into where we were going. And I see Jed and I see Ashley. I just want to throw this out there before you guys say what you were going to say, which is that the acknowledgement that needs to, I think all of us as clients want to hear in regard to the thinking process and the thinking process where the default is white. right? And how that's going to be addressed as we move forward.
I will, sorry, Jed.
Go ahead, actually.
Okay, I'm going to jump in because it's something that as we turn the mirror in and start looking at ourselves and start looking at things that I have said to clients, ways that I've communicated, auditions that I have sent them, breakdowns that have been passed along, it's not unintentional. The norm is the default has been white. You look at a TV breakdown of a series 10 to 12 years ago, those first three leads, you just assumed were white. And that's how I worked. And that is the work that was done, is just because that was the lane and the groove and the understanding that was sort of this unspoken understanding within casting, within agents, within how we do things. How are we going to push? Who are we going to push? Who's really right? Who's going to actually get cast? Who's going to get brought in? Like all of those things. But it has been, Keisha, and the default has been white. And so when I look at a breakdown now, and especially over my last 5 years and coming with KMR, that's like, I find breakdowns to be exceptionally lazy, especially in how things are communicated. And in Mandy, this is going off of what you're saying, that you just want to be, you hold all of these different attributes ultimately. And it's like, those should be expressed and there should be an avenue. But like, we are retraining and regrooving lanes in our brain of not having our own microaggressions speak out and say, oh, wait a second, I didn't see this person for this role because I've been attuned to this. But like, I personally, in our work, I find breakdowns to be lazy, but they're what we have to work with. I find them to be racist, and they're what we have to work with. And I think what we have benefited by is the experience that, you know, I've just celebrated my 15 years in this industry, that I've seen it around long enough, and that I've been around long enough to be like, okay, you can start to peel through the layers and see through the layers of what people are asking, what they're seeking, what they're wanting. But where the four of us function, and I think, as you all know, as a unit and as a hive mind. So if I may misstep, or I may say something, and Jed will catch it, or Barrett or Alex or whatever it is. Like, it's a very practical way of working, in that, because it's like, I don't want our clients to be seen as tokens and as props. And I feel like that happens a lot. And that, Allison, you're right. You should be seen for Sweeney Todd at Sacramento and not just for Color Purple. Like, yeah, you're absolutely right. But on a practical level of like, we work as a unit, and I want to see that the first two leads of a breakdown or a new musical or something at City Center Encore is like, that they're going to go, it's about this person for the role. And like, I'm not afraid of picking up the phone and pushing. I don't think any of us are. I know any of us aren't. That it's not, there's no fear in that. It's a matter of wanting, how are we going to represent each of you to the best possible place, that what each of you bring to the table. And like, that's going to be Taria, that might be something that's different for Mandy, but it's going to be something that's different for Allison, it's going to be something that's different for Keisha, like, and to acknowledge that.
Yeah, and I came up around the same time. Sorry. Should I start? No.
No, go ahead, Jed.
I came up around the same time as Ashley, so I was likely guilty of or exposed, learned things in a similar way, or were exposed to things in a similar way, where there was that default white thing at the top of a breakdown. And but I mean, fortunately, I'd like to believe that we both have also been part of the evolution and have you know, challenged ourselves, and the proof is in the pudding, you know, of the opportunities that have been sent to all of you. But it's still something that we have to keep challenging ourselves, and we have to get better at and better at and better at. And where I feel like, and one of the reasons why I love working as a team, and why I insist that we as your team work in a certain way, which is that even if I am in charge of X project because I cover Telsey, the moment I'm done with the breakdown, I hand it to Ashley, and she takes a look at it, and then she hands it to Alex, and Alex hands it to Barrett. And everyone sees you a little bit differently. So if one of us got stuck and being like, oh, white guy, white guy, white guy, and then the next person puts down black guy, usually what happens is they go, whoa, that really could, and then you switch it and start adding in Asian and Latino or whatever it is. I feel like because as part of the team structure, because we come from different perspectives, we're able to then help each other be better at the end of the day. But I want to let Barrett and Alex jump in.
Let me just jump in real quick, and then we'll let them share. Jed, this conversation came up yesterday in our pre-meeting, and I challenged the agents to say, is that still your current thinking? When you pick up a breakdown, is that still your thinking? Do you still default to white? And as a group, the answer was no. But what we learn now is, in listening to what is being said, that even though our thinking may change, our practice still needs to be improved. And because when I hear Mandy say, I'm only going out for black things, that tells me that we're falling short in doing our job. Because as I've said to people for years, as I have taken representation meetings, if you're the only black face in the room, your agent's doing their job right. They're seeing you in the role, not in the ethnicity. And you want to be, look, we hope that there's a myriad, we hope to get to the place where there's a myriad of faces in every room. But if you are the only face of color in the room, your agent's done their job right, and we need to do that job better. And I'll step back and let Barrett and Alex talk.
And I just want to jump in and say, after Barrett and Alex, Danny Johnson has his hand raised to say something.
Danny has him.
So to chime in on all of this, I think that there definitely were institutional attitudes, or still are institutional attitudes. It would be naive to say that now all of a sudden, yeah, the top 3 roles, they're really genuinely looking for all races and all types. And I do think it has wildly improved. I've been fortunate enough to, when I started in the business, there was the beginning to be an increased push for, diversity and increased opportunities. I was also lucky enough where, an account that I've covered from when I was an assistant through now is, the Public Theater and Joseph Papp and the New York Shakespeare Festival, and all of their work were kind of, in some ways, the beginning of the push for non-traditional casting. And I think that that's something that, has always stuck with me and was imbued in me, where I try to pride myself on not just looking at so-and-so is African-American, so-and-so is Latino, hence their right for this Latino role. One of the opportunities for us as agents, we don't get to read material and make interesting, complex choices on it. One opportunity for us to be creative and kind of make those choices is in pushing clients for different roles. And it can be one of the most exciting and fun things to kind of look at a role sideways a little bit and be like, well, could that actually be so-and-so? Is there any reason why it has to be this? Or, a reason why it has to be white, a reason why it has to be any race? Could we push it a little bit? And I think we all pride ourselves in that. It's something where, with the collaborative nature of our team, we're constantly ping-ponging ideas off of each other and trying to push ourselves in that regard. And then just to touch a little bit on Eden and Jen, I think some of you might know this, but I'm actually half Puerto Rican. I'm half Latino. So I very much understand where you're coming from and what you're saying, and that there is this huge range. Like, just because you are half Latino or half Asian doesn't mean that race is not a defining trait, as Mandy and some other people identified. Like, just to be Black is not a type. There is this humongous breadth within that. And Just because I am half Puerto Rican does not ever mean that I would be on Narcos. Like, that's just not who I am. So I just want to say that I hear you guys, and I'm certainly not perfect. None of us are, but I think that we all endeavor to try to push those boundaries where we can, and we'll push even harder now, you know, to really hone in and focus in on who is the right person for the role and how can we make this work, regardless of what it may say in the role description or on the page. And I promise to never stop fighting for that.
Thanks, Barrett.
Yeah,
Hey,
Barrett
Alex.
He took all the words out of my mouth, all of them, each one. We came up around the same time where diversity, which is a word that I have a problem with for a lot of reasons, was being pushed. And so I came up actively when there was no description of a race or ethnicity, trying to find people of color to put into those roles. And even people with disabilities, people who are size diverse. That was always part of the mission when I was coming up. I also, like Barrett, am half Irish and half Dominican, which a lot of people probably don't know. And I never really fit into either of those lanes. So I hear and see all of you who are in that place and who are dealing with that frustration where you're being presented two lanes and you're not either. You're somewhere in the middle. You're whoever you are. And even within both of those lanes, I know Dominicans are among the most racist people on the planet and hate themselves. And my grandmother once told me not to play in the sun because then I'd be too dark. And so I've worked that out a lot with a therapist, but I hear you and I see you. And I'm also triggered by the word ethnicity, or like we're going ethnic, we're going diverse, the word exotic. Like none of these, and the ones that you guys brought up, I'm hyper aware of, and have said to casting to people when they're saying we're going diverse, that I hate that word and that's not what we mean, because diversity is everyone. Diversity is not just people of color. And like, if you're going ethnic, white people have ethnicities. None of these are the right words. And I don't know that I have the right words, but I've been searching for them since I've been an assistant at an agency, reading breakdowns and being upset every time I see them. So all that to say, I'm working on it, you know, and hearing everyone speak to it is only lighting a fire under my ass to work harder at it and be more informed as to what I'm fighting for.
Thanks, Alex. That's amazing. Danny, then Jed, and then I think Jacqueline.
Melanie.
That's Jacqueline, but it's Melanie.
I do what I'm told.
I hear you. Not very often.
Watch yourself.
Just saying.
Watch yourself, sir.
I think I'm unmuted.
You are.
Yes.
Okay,
hey,
good.
Danny.
Hi, everybody. Firstly, just wonderful of KMR to have these forums. Very, very impressed with everyone's commitment. And thank you for hosting or moderating today, Kisa, and for everyone's participation. For myself, I think that, you know, I mean, I've been pretty fortunate in my career to be able to play a lot of range of different roles. You know, when I was younger, I was, you know, I played a lot of, you know, the heavy, tough guys, and then I played a lot of cops and everything. But now I'm in a place where I play, you know, more, I guess, executive type people, I think. And I think, you know, you guys were talking about in terms of like how to look at us in terms of, you know, when you first see those first names on the top of the list and everything, you know, those first positions where, you know, classically white actors are going to play them or whatever is a place where somebody like me is really trying to make the leap, because we can do these things I can do a lot of stuff that I can do, you know, as a guest star is great. You know, you can go in and guest star and maybe do this and maybe do an arc or something like that. It's fantastic. But the breakthrough is when we can play those series regulars and we're considered in that series regular lane and vein, like, hey, we need this person who's playing this type of person, and, you know, you got to look at this guy, you know, you need to check her out. You know, that's really the you know, where I see a lot of opportunity for breakthrough, and where I hope that, you know, going forward, you know, I don't know if you guys are really understanding that, if you get the distinction I'm making, but I think a lot of times, you know, on guest star tip, it's no problem. People are like, oh yeah, we can see, you know, we see her as, you know, the CEO, or we see him as the president of the United States, or whatever. But maybe on the series regular tip, it just doesn't fall that way. So I think going forward, you know, as much as you can to try to, you know, impress on people, hey, you know, we've got these people, and, you know, we think they're right for this. And yeah, you're not race specific. Yeah, you're not looking for somebody black, but you need to look at this person. That really only enhances everything for all of us. So that's really all I had to share and say. And thank you so much, and everybody, for your participation.
Thank you, Danny. There's so many things I want to address, and we're never going to get to all of them. But one of the overall things that I keep thinking as I'm hearing everyone is, you know, we pride ourselves on representing each of you individually. Each of you are at different places in your careers. Each of you come to the table with a different skill set. You come to the table with different natural qualities. You come to the table with different relationships. You come to the table with different goals. And I think that some of these things can be addressed by us getting together individually, meaning like you and the team, to say, okay, I tend to be going out for X, Y, and Z, and that's great, that's going well. But for whatever reason, I never get seen for these type of roles, this quality. And then we can set a short-term goal of really being extra aware and highlight those and look for those opportunities to expand that reach. Because I don't think in general as a team, I think in general as a team, we think outside the box. I think in general as a team, we're aggressive about pursuing opportunities for our clients of color, you know, even when it doesn't say it, when they're not thinking it. I think we do that. But that said, I think we got to get real specific with each of you and figure out where we can be better individually, because I think that is where maybe we can get some traction and it can really ring true. And then when we are in that process of the breakdowns, that we're going to remember, all right, you know, he really feels like he's not getting those opportunities, and she feels like, you know, and we can really, you know, set those goals and accomplish that. The other thing that is sort of related is in connection to something that came up in the previous forum, and then and I've been trying to take some time to like process it and help come out on the other side of it in a positive way, which is so, and it's very much related to that, because that it was something that Taria had brought up in the previous forum, and that was that while other people may share the same feeling, was specific to Taria in that moment, that she was saying, this is how I feel when this happens, or this is how I feel when that happens. And while, and this isn't about defending, it's just about giving a perspective that and what I did, so Taria had brought up that there had been a breakdown where they were looking for a Leslie Jones type, and how that was brought to her, and how frustrating that is, because she's nothing like Leslie Jones. And so why is that happening? So I was having a conversation with Keisha to try to like zoom out so I could get it not just to be about Taria, to help get an understanding. And then that's where we came up with this Wanda Sykes type, that if there was a Wanda Sykes type on the breakdown, clearly Keisha is nothing like Wanda Sykes. But I would be doing Keisha a disservice if there was a role for a whatever age plus woman of all ethnicities, and it specifically said Wanda Sykes type, if I don't submit her, then I'm potentially doing her a disservice, because in theory, she could go in there and change their mind about what that role is. That's one. Two, I don't trust that the person who wrote that breakdown has a clue what they're looking for. And they might have only just come up with Wanda Sykes because that's what they thought of. And they may not even really be looking for a Wanda Sykes type. So now we put all this weight into who Wanda Sykes is. And instead it's like, no, let's go in there because they're clearly looking for someone who's strong and funny. And let's see if we can be another version of that. But then also, let's have the conversation if you say, you know what, I'm not that. Can you dig a little deeper and find out if they really want to Wanda Sykes type, or if they're just, or if that was just a tipping off point. So that was something, you know, in related to the Leslie Jones, that yes, I feel like I'd be doing a disservice if I didn't at least try it. But never in my wildest dreams have I ever thought of Tria Campbell as a Leslie Jones type. And I think the frustration also goes with, why are the people writing the breakdowns? Why are the writers, the creative team so limited that people fall into these categories of Leslie Jones and Wanda Sykes? And there's so many other colors in that scheme. But I just want to say, I feel like I do see those other colors, and I know you're not that, and I know you're not that, but I want to get you opportunities, and I want you in that room, and I want them to see that they're wrong and it should be you. And so that's where I'm coming from. But I do have that sense, but I am aware now, and I do want to have those conversations, and I don't want you to pursue something if it's offensive to you or you feel like it's a lost cause. I just want to talk it out and make sure you know that was our perspective when we were submitting.
It's illustrated on this call. The breakdown for Angelica Schuyler, when it first came out, said Nicki Minaj type. There are 3 women on this call who played Angelica Schuyler, and none of them are Nicki Minaj. Nor was Renee Elise Goldsberry, who almost didn't go in because it said Nicki Minaj.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
correct.
So individually, I think that let's start to really think about where we can get together and come up with these specific goals of challenge, because that is where we can play the role. That is where we can get into it with you.
And it's very easy for agents and to get into their own tunnel vision of how we know someone, when we met them, in what capacity, in what show, in what role, that it's very easy for us to get in tunnel vision and say, this is how I know you, but yet you've lived an entire life and it's been a decade, and that you have changed and you have morphed and you have life experience, and what all of that brings to the table and that nourishes you, that we sometimes get hung up, and those hiccups happen that you go, before you know it, you go, oh, this isn't who they are anymore, because they've grown and they've changed. And so we can be more, I think, in those individual conversations, but I think that that's also a part of what we need to be more responsible of as agents, of just acknowledging growth.
Right. There have been several hands raised, so I'm going to ask these next names that I give, if you guys can make it as succinct as possible, so we have time to get to our final little portion that we want to talk about. So we have, after Jacqueline, then we have Melanie, then we have Angela, then we have Taria, and then we have Mandy. Thanks.
Okay, well, I think this will help because Melanie is Jacqueline. I don't know why it says Jacqueline Vernon. It's kind of like Jackson Sloan. I don't know why it says that, but I am Melanie Nichols King.
Hi, Melanie.
Hi, Keisha. We haven't got a chance to meet in person, but
It's coming, girl. It's coming. It's coming.
I love you already. From like the first town hall. I loved you. Anyway, so I want to say thank you, KMR, for doing this. This is amazing. I love all of you. Sam, I haven't had a chance to meet you, but you know, I will love you when I meet you, I'm sure. I am like Danny, have had the good fortune to play a wide range of characters that are not just written for Black as Black. And and I know that is because my agents are submitting me across the board and not just for Black characters. And the last couple of pilot seasons and forward have actually gone out for series regulars. And so, you know, it's been amazing how that has grown exponentially from, you know, a couple, maybe 5-6 years back. My thing, which was helpful for me is, and a question I have for you guys, is when you're pushing for casting directors to see people that they don't necessarily see in that light or for that character, are you open to, because what my manager did for me years ago, when a casting director said, no, I don't think Melanie's right for that role, she said, Melanie, put it on tape and we're gonna send it. And she sent it and I got the role. And it was an amazing 5-year experience for me. So are you guys open to saying, okay, telling us so that we know, casting director not interested in seeing you, but I think you would be amazing for this role. Why don't we put it on tape? And I don't know how other actors feel about that, because that's like a shot in the dark and, you know, you may not even get seen, but, you know, I know that it worked for me really well in that, you know, instance.
I can do a quick short answer as we get to everyone. The answer is case by case. Everyone's different. Some people are open to that, let's roll the dice and go for it. And some people are like, please don't waste my time. So that's why I have to represent each one of you individually. There are times in a process where I can just know that I just got to get them on tape and say, this is great, watch it. And there are times where they're just not, you know, where they're not going to be interested. But maybe there's another way to go around it, or reach out to an executive, or to let's get creative. Sure, absolutely. So I think, again, I think that worked great, and I think it can work great again. And but no, I wouldn't make it a hard and fast rule that every single time someone says no, that everyone should just throw themselves on tape. They just wouldn't all get watched, and it would be mayhem. But I do, yes, absolutely, case by case. Let's get focused. Let's get specific, and I think it could be a winning thing for sure.
Thanks, Jed. Angela, Taria, then Mandy.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Angela Grovey, and please feel free to submit me for Wanda. Fill in the blank, because I'm excited to show all of the colors that are in my box. Thank you all. I think you all are amazing. I'm excited to be in this room, in this space, and be on this roster with so many amazing, beautiful, beautiful people. I actually got really sort of excited over here listening when Barrett was talking about how excited he was to like push the envelope. And so I am a person who want to like encourage us as clients to not be afraid to email our agents or get on the phone with them. I've done it several times and had hard conversations and hold them accountable to this. Barrett, I'm excited. I hope you're excited, because we're going to be like it together. I'm about it. And then something that Danny said that really sort of hit that was like, oh, we're talking about breaking cycles. Like how once upon a time we're put into this box and you can't get to this level unless you play enough in this level, and you want to get to this level, and it's all a cycle of like you can never get up there if they never let you in the middle of it. And that's the thing that I want to challenge you all to do, because I want to play in all the boxes, and I haven't been allowed to always go and play in the other sandboxes. So this next 6 months, year, 6 years of our time together, I really am going to try and challenge you to challenge me to push myself to know that I am worth it. I am worthy of being in those rooms, and that we will be in this together to do it. So thank you, buckling up for the ride.
Just to say, you are worth it. You are all worth it. And if you ever fucking think otherwise, I have a problem with that.
Come on, Alex.
I want to know where Angela's going in 6 years, though. What's that about?
Yeah. I'm here.
And you know what? I'm just going to interject because I can at this moment. The reason I'm at this agency, yeah, I know all my friends are like, Miss Thing, really? Yes, you know me. The reason I'm at this agency is because the former agency that I was at, when I sat down and had regular conversations with the agents about where I wanted to go and what I felt, and got feedback from them about what was happening, the agent at that former office who listened to me and did what I asked was Jed Abrahams. That's why I'm at KMR. Bouquet?
Thanks, Keisha.
You're welcome. All right, is it Mandy? Where's that girl? Hi, pretty lady. Wait, somebody. Wait.
Unmute her. Unsilence Mandy.
I think she's saying Taria was first.
It's not my turn, it's Taria's turn.
Sorry.
Oh, yay, Mandy. Good for you. Sorry, Taria.
That's okay. Jed Abraham with no S.
Hams.
It's Abrahams, but who's counting? I mean, you know, we all just met.
How many hams?
Listen, the hams on Abrahams is principal. Hams.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know we're running out of time, and because I've never met her and I love Mandy so much, I just can't wait to hear what she says again because she's amazing. But what I wanted to say was in regards to what you were talking about, Jed, when you were speaking about me and the Leslie Jones thing. I appreciate you wanting to get me into the room for both Leslie Jones and Wanda Sykes, but what I want to get into the room.
No, I didn't want to get you in the room for Wanda Sykes. That was the example for Keisha, just to be clear.
Because I was in the show that had a Wanda Sykes breakdown, and they hired me. Boo hiss. Go ahead.
But what I'm saying is, I understand where you don't want to limit somebody, and you're saying, well, like, do I not submit them because I don't want them to? I get all that, but what I'm saying is I want to be in the Lisa Kudrow, Deborah Messing room, and that is equally, if not more important than, and I think we've all been saying that, we all know it, but I just have to like let those words come out of my mouth that I don't, it is not as great a feat to be, no, that's not the right words. It is a great feat to be seen in all the facets and all the colors, like Angela was saying and Mandy was saying, of what Black people are. But as a lot of other people said, I think it was Andy, we're all just human and we all just want to work. We have so many other things. And when they do the breakdowns and break down the white people as like all of these wonderful things, I have a lot of things. And like, I want that. I want to be in that room.
Yeah. And I hear you, and I got that, and that's where each one of us can get specific and get individual, because I remember the example you brought up was Will and Grace, and you're like, I want to go in for Grace. And my thought was, are you a Grace or are you a Karen?
No, you think I'm that? You think I'm the best friend.
And that's a conversation that we can, you think of Karen as Karen's my favorite role in the show. So that's, you know what I mean? But again, we can talk about that and we can get into that and figure that out together. And that's how we can do that moving forward. The point is that, yes, I get it, that the goal is not, of course, you understand Les Joe's things, but the goal is about finding those opportunities where they may not have had a Black woman in mind, but let's show them this Black woman. And I hear you.
Yeah, I think that when I first moved to New York and like, you know, some agent or somebody asked me like, what do you want to do? What roles do you want to play? And I've always said, I want to be on a TV show as a Black woman that isn't about race. And I've never been in a show that isn't about race or I'm an animal. So that's like my goals for the future, you know, like Lion King is what I mean by an animal.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying, do a role about a love story, about a woman who falls in love or who gets divorced and it has nothing to do with race. That like, you know, somebody, Eden Espinosa can play, I can play, Keisha can play, and Jen Sessi can play. And by the way, like all four of us are brunettes. And if the breakdown said all these things and it said brunettes, we would never be in it because brunette is white, right? You know, so I want to be in that room for that role, for that person, for that life experience, because I too have all of those life experiences. My life experiences aren't just related to like being Black.
Absolutely.
The end. Let Mandy talk.
Wait, hold on.
Hello.
There
You
she
guys
is.
might, if you hear squeaking, it's my dog. She's very excited with her toy. Sorry, y'all. I have some notes. But actually, to what you were just saying, Taria, is like, it's very, like you just want to exist as like, as a Black woman and as something that has nothing to do with race. White people don't know how to see people of color in a way that has nothing to do with race. That's just the bottom line. Even when we talk about, we want to see like we're like, oh, we want my diversity. We want to do a more diverse version of like, you know, Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. Suddenly it's an all black version. Like we don't all exist in the world together. No one's asking for an all black version of Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. We're just asking that like we can exist as people in certain plays. Like it's impossible. It feels impossible to break down the wall of white people seeing us without race involved. And yet we are the ones who are being accused of talking about race all the time.
Exactly.
It's very frustrating.
But I never watched Friends or Sex in the City. They never had any black people. I'm like, you live in
No.
New York City. Like, what is that?
Because we don't exist. We don't exist to them. You know, or what we represent doesn't exist. What we represent to them doesn't exist in the places that they occupy. And that's just the truth of it. Okay, anyway. So I wanted to say to Brian's point earlier about having to learn all these different accents to kind of figure out where he fits in the business. I feel like almost the opposite. I have all these accents that I know how to do, but no one wants to see a black Irish girl. No one wants to see a black British girl. No one wants to see a black Parisian girl. Like no one wants to see that. So I have all these accents that I never get to use because I was born in London and I never get sent in for like a British character. And it's very, I've actually had, not with you guys, but commercially, a voiceover audition that called for a British accent. And when I showed up, he was like, oh, you don't have to do that. And I was like, actually, I can do that. I was born in London. He was like, no, you don't have to do that. And it's just so, people's limited imaginations are so frustrating when they're the people that hold the keys to the doors that we're trying to get into. I also wanted to say that I know we're trying to break down barriers and get us in rooms, and we should be doing that. And yes, I also wanted to note that there are some roles that are race specific for a reason. And so I don't want you to bang against those doors when there's a purpose for things being race-based. Does that make sense?
Of course.
Okay, that's all.
Right.
Accents. Jed, this goes to what you were saying earlier about the whole Liz Jones, Wanda Sykes thing. Like, how do you kind of navigate that as an agent and wanting us to get in, but knowing that you don't want to play into specific stereotypes? And I think what you said is perfectly right on. Like, I would want, if that were a situation for me, I would want you to be like, hey, Mandy, I am aware that this is jacked up, and I know you're not Wanda Sykes, and I know you're not Leslie Jones, but I want to submit you for these reasons. I want to get you in front of this person, or because I think you can change their mind. Even that conversation is enough for me, because that lets me know as my representative that you have my back and doesn't make me feel like you're playing into the stereotypes that they're trying to present. So even that, like, I know you might not feel like that's enough, but that's enough for me. Because that's an acknowledgement of like, I know this is, can I curse here? I know this is fucked up and I'm not trying to play into this. I know, Mark, I know, cross yourself. But that acknowledgement to me has significant value, because that lets me know that you have my back. Because, you know, we all get that this is a business that, you know, has some very racist institutional things happening in it. Like, there's only so much you can do as my agent, but having an awareness, you being aware that it's fucked up is enough for me, and trying to figure out together how we navigate it. Also, earlier, Jennifer and Eden were talking about how difficult it can be to find a lane to kind of go through as either white passing or biracial people. And it's like, that frustrates me so much, because there is a lane. It's just not a race-based lane. We need to switch these race-based lanes into talent lanes, because there's many lanes for them to exist as the amazing talented actresses they are. They're just not race-based lanes, right? So we need to open that up. Like, for me, my dream, as you guys being my agents, is for you to see a breakdown and say, that's Mandy. It might not say black woman, but she is that kind of funny, or she does have that kind of sorrow, or she is that kind of quirky, or whatever, and be like, that's her. That describes this part of Mandy, or that describes this kind of Mandy, and just push me for it. Just push me for it, because it's like, it's very frustrating to feel like people are only interested in my blackness as a tool for something, and not interested in who I am as a person and how I can exist. And don't get me wrong, my blackness, I walk into a room, I'm a black person that does
change conversations, but it always adds to the conversation. It doesn't take away from it. And I feel like people as an industry think about it as something that detracts or adds negative things, as opposed to looking at the amazing things or commentary that it could add that is significant. Like, I think about my son that was on play last year, and that whole, what happened with that, with the casting and Greg, and he wanted to have, you know, the black daughter and the brother, and then the estate was like, no, we don't want to add race into it. We only want it to be like the neighbors, these less central characters. When having these characters as black characters actually makes sense in terms of what's happening in the script, that this father would, you know, throw his black partner under the bus and end up in jail, and that his children would want retribution for that, right? So the estate said no, and Greg walked away from the project. And I, to this day, will work for him or with him on anything, because that's a man with integrity. He said, I will not turn to these black actors that I've been auditioning for the past few months and tell them I could not find someone talented enough to do this role. Because it was, you know, it was a lie, and it was based on the narrow vision of the estate, as opposed to like what artistically could be possible in a way that made sense. So I think that was on my notes. I think that's all I had to say, but just, sorry, y'all. Thank you for having us. I'm glad to be a part of it. I love all of you dearly. Yeah, that's all. I'm gonna mute myself now.
Yes, ma'am. And Eden, you wanted to say something really quickly. Please do.
Just really quick, I wanted to go back to what we were talking about at the very beginning of this, what Keisha was touching on at the difficulty. You know, when I was shopping around for a new agency, I was asking around about KMR, about Jen, and about Ashley, and all of the remarks were like, they're super fair, they're tough negotiators, they stand up for their clients. And I also want to know that when things come back, I know for one, I am not going to be as silent as I was in the past. And there is a difference between being difficult and standing up for yourself or drawing a boundary. And I know that you guys know that. I just had to like voice it out loud, because there are the isms and the stereotypes of the fiery, angry Latina, the loud, angry black woman, the, you know, the cold, standoffish black man. They don't want to, they're not a team player. And I just know that a lot of people are feeling more empowered to speak up. And when things get back, I want you guys to know the difference between saying no and drawing a boundary and being difficult, because that standing up for yourself, or that knowing your worth, isn't being difficult. And I know that you guys know that, but I just had to say it out loud.
I want to say that they absolutely know that, and a little story comes to mind that I will be brief since you're new to the family. I was involved in a negotiation for a TV thing, and my partner in the TV thing was a well-established white actor, but the money offer that came in was abysmal. And I can say, because we're in a safe space, that when Jed and I had that conversation, he said, I would be willing, with your permission, to say to them, do you really want the white actor to make 6 times more than her and that not be made public? Do you really want that? Now, fortunately, we didn't have to go there. Look at Jed's face. He's like, oh my God. But listen, that's when I knew homeboy had his dukes up. You understand me?
Yeah.
He didn't have to go there because it did move the way it needed to move, but he was ready and willing. That's what we got here.
Yeah. That's what I love. And I would love it for us actors for when we do the same thing for ourselves, for it to be looked at as a good thing instead of being difficult. So absolutely. I'm glad to be here.
Keisha, are we about to wrap up?
Yes, we are about to wrap up. I just want to make sure I didn't forget anything. I think this might be a good thing to wrap up with. We've already touched on it, but I always feel like it's good for us as clients to hear how you guys navigate things that we know are happening, but we're not privy to the conversation, such as getting clients of color in the room, getting us in the room. What can you share with us a little bit about those conversations that we all know are difficult? And this might be a little uncomfortable, but I think it's something that we could benefit from hearing about. And a hush fell over Jerusalem.
No, no. It's like I'm afraid to say that I don't feel like I have these tangible. We touched upon this yesterday in a pre-discussion, and it's almost like am I misremembering or whatever? But I don't feel like I have these tangible examples of where they just don't think it can be diverse, and I've had to fight to tell them that it needed to be diverse. I feel like it always seems to be more individual to that, you know, someone doesn't think someone's right for something, and that applies to so many clients. And, you know, I feel like, you know, I will do everything in my power to try and convince them if I think that they're right, that they are right. I will, you know, scour their social media to find a picture that literally like matches up exactly with what that character is, to spoon feed it to them, to be like, this is, you know, I will try to find whatever footage there is. I will find a review. I'll do whatever I can to get that across. But in general, while yes, there is this overall systemic problem, and but I personally don't feel like I have been faced with this wall of getting clients of color in for roles. I am, again, I promised myself that this would not become a celebration of how woke we are or how good we are, you know. But I am proud of work that has been done, and I am proud of rooms that I have gotten clients in. And so I hope that I didn't mean to be unhelpful with the question, and maybe someone else has a better example that, you know, to answer it.
It's interesting because the conversations that I will have, like I cover some really fantastic TV female casting directors, and I adore them and love them, from Julie Schubert to Suzanne Ryan to Meredith Tucker, and like they all have their different sensibilities. And so I know about how I'm going to push, but it's fascinating because like Julie is known for being a hard ass, where it's never been about, she will just, you'll get a response back, not right. And you kind of go, okay, that's not helpful, that's not usable. Sometimes it takes 3 or 4 pushes to get somebody in the room, but honestly, it's very rare that it's, I can't think of a time that I've used, it's always been about the actor and their talent, the actor and what they bring to the table, the actor and who they are, that we use as to elevate and to amplify of why they should be getting in the room. That it's very rare to, like, at least that I've encountered in my most recent memory, that I go, it's not their, they come from this really great training, they do this, they do that, and by the way, they're Black. They can see that you're Black. I've submitted you for the project. I'm pushing you for the project. I'm pushing you for like the traits and what you hopefully bring to the table to match that. So it's like, I'm with Jed, I don't have a tangible thing. It's interesting because it always comes back to the talent and to the actor themselves, and like what the actor brings, and is the actor the right person for this role as a unit, and it's hopefully not just because of race.
What about I'm sorry, what about when it's, let me give, maybe this will jog a thought or a memory.
Sure.
What if there is a project that, like speaking to Taria's point, that specifically, you know, they're saying Deborah Messing type, but you know that one of your clients of color is right. How do you push?
Absolutely, I would get in. I would get in there and be like, "Let's talk about this. Does this, you know, are they married to the idea of is this? Are they related to someone else in a family unit that I'm not aware of because the script hasn't been released yet and I'm only going on what I've been given? Is that why this person needs to be Caucasian? Have you already cast 4 other people that are X, Y, and Z ethnicity, and they're trying to round it out in some way. I mean, sometimes there are other factors that come into play, but yeah, absolutely. If I feel like someone is innately right for the role, and I feel like that the designation of ethnicity is arbitrary, then hell yeah, I'm gonna push and prove to them why that actor is right for the role. 100%.
Great.
Well,
and have you had to do that?
No, I mean, yes, a zillion times have I had to prove to a casting director that they were wrong and I was right and that this person should be seen. That happens every single day, you know, where we're doing that. Or people who think they know, casting directors who think they've known you for 10 years and go, oh, no, she's not that. And I'd be like, I can understand why you might think that. I've known them that long too, but let me show you an example of this that just aired, and we have some new footage, and you'll see that actually they are funny, or they are this, or they are that. So we always have to like and be creative and try to pound it in there that that they don't always know best. That's just part of the job, and it's certainly part of the job I like because it's I think we're good at it. So I like that part.
Now, I can think of a specific example, actually. From earlier this pilot season, there was a pilot with Patrick Dempsey called Ways and Means. I think you read for it, Keisha, actually. I don't know. If you recall, I mean,
Yes, there was much discussion because y'all know my issues, my insecurity. Exactly. But go ahead.
But there was a lead role in that pilot that was described as being, from small town Wisconsin, and the role was in the script, I think, half Vietnamese, half Caucasian, because the dad had met, someone in Korea or Vietnam or something like that. From what I recall, I remember there was a client of color, who an African-American client, who I thought was pretty perfect for the role. And I reached out to casting and I said, safe to assume that the role doesn't have to, I mean, yeah, you have the dad who is Caucasian, who's like a former sergeant in the military, but does it have to be half Asian? Could it be half Latina? Could it be half African-American? I have this person that I knew that they liked and had seen before with other things, like why couldn't it be so-and-so? And I actually did get shot down, unfortunately. I got pushback saying, this role in particular, we're not looking at African-American choices because there are a couple other, roles in the script that we are more explicitly looking for African-American choices. And I ended up getting casting to read the client that I had in mind for one of those other roles. But it was frustrating in that moment to be like, yeah, she could do that role. And I'm sure she gave a very good read, but I'm like, this particular role based off of, the qualities, I thought was a much stronger fit. But unfortunately, despite my arguments to that effect, based off of the picture that they were concocting in their mind of how the different roles would all line up, it didn't fit. So, I mean, that is one example I can give that I can think of. Yeah.
Mandy, did your hand go up?
No, I was just gonna say, can you hear me? Because I just took my headset out.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I was just gonna say that's tricky, Barrett, because at the same time, like, yeah, that your client might have been better for that role, a good fit for that role, but then you also don't want to take a limited opportunity or limited slot for an Asian actor away from, you know what I mean? So that's hard, but good on you for trying. I was just gonna say that kind of lends itself to, this is not something we have to discuss now because I know we're short on time, but conversations that we should be having collectively around colorism too in the industry. I think Eden talked about it a little bit as well, but I know that there have certainly been things that I've gone out for as a kind of mid-tone Black woman, that I was like, this role should actually be going to a darker skinned Black woman, and I don't feel comfortable, going in on that audition or taking away that audition slot from someone who
who could use it and book the role. So that's definitely a conversation that we need to have. And I think we also need to expand our idea of what certain ethnicities look like. Like I know people my skin tone are darker who identify as Latina. You know what I mean? Like I know people my skin tone are slightly darker who are also mixed race, Black, white. So I think we just need to be more open about like what the gamut covers. You know what I mean? What we can all where we all fit. Like, you know, does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's all. We can also talk about hair. That's another conversation. Jed and I have had many
Child.
conversations about it.
Girl. We
But that's
gonna
for
get to
another time.
Well, that's why Alan took care of that problem.
I thought about shaving my head during this pandemic, y'all. Don't play.
Oh God.
You're not the only one.
I have enough wigs that no one would have noticed.
No one would know, right?
I know that Mark wants to wrap us up, but if Keisha, if we're done with the other bullet points.
Yeah, no one else has lifted their hand, so please.
I'm just grateful. I'm grateful to all of you for being here. I'm grateful for your candor. I'm grateful for your courage to challenge me, to challenge us, to teach us, for your time. And I'm just honored. I mean, this is such a talented group of people. My God. I mean, I was like thinking, like, what play could every single person be in? How amazing would that be? You know, it's just, I'm very honored to be. We always say that when we're meeting an actor and we're trying to figure out who we want to represent, like what journey do we want to be on, and that we are, you know, this is going to sound super cheesy, but I'm going to say it. You know, as a kid, I loved superheroes and superpowers, and I kind of, as I got older, I started to look at the talent that a performer has as a superpower. And so as an adult, I feel like I get to hang out with superheroes, and I get to represent superheroes, and I get to just be associated with amazing talent. And so that, and I know that my amazing team, who I miss terribly, feels the same way. So thank you so much for being in this family and being with us. And I promise that we are going to continue this work and this conversation.
If you didn't know, now you know, right? I always describe my agents in New York. I say that they are better people than they are agents, and they are four of the best goddamn agents in this world. But they're better people, and I think you learned that today. I really believe that. I am constantly moved by these conversations. And I thank every one of you. You guys make us better. And without you, KMR is nothing. It's three fucking initials on a plexiglass sign. So I thank you guys for making us better. Know that my phone is always on, my door is always open, and all of us are available to talk at any time about any issues you may be having. This is an agency that has your back. And you need to know that. And I'm, like Jed said earlier, you know, I'm constantly surprised. You know, I had a client who wrote me a very lengthy email after the last town hall, and I picked the phone and I called him and I said, you know, thanks so much for this. He goes, oh, thank God, I didn't know why you were calling. I was so scared you were gonna drop. I'm like, you know, I hate that. I hate that is there. I always say, we work for you. This dynamic, this paradigm is on its ass as you guys go out and try to find an agent and worry what an agent's gonna do. You know, we work for you. We take 10% of your money. It's not the other way around. We don't let you keep 90% of our hard-earned money. You know, and don't ever be afraid of who we are or what's going to happen. We are your representatives. We are there to represent you. And we have your back every step of this way, which is why we are having these conversations, which is why we are picking up the books that are suggested to us, which is why we are going on Zooms and seminars. We have, one tomorrow. We had one last week, trying to learn all we can learn. Why we are calling you and having these conversations that annoy you, and tire you out. And I appreciate your time and your energy. We are in this together and trying to make us better. So thank you all for being who you are. We really appreciate it. And thanks for taking the afternoon with us.
And a round of applause for Keisha for moderating.
Thank you,
And Sam, for all your
Keisha.
help on getting us through this every time. Thank you.
Love you guys.
My privilege. Mwah.
And we'll see you all soon.
Yep.
Yeah.